Can Sonic 3 make $1 billion? After that trailer, is it possible? That and more on the big thing. Here we go. Let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. It is the big thing. It is Tuesday, and we're happy to have you back here today on the show. So, as I said, we got Sonic. Lots of hype with this movie, man, because 1 and 2 weren't supposed to be that good. You know what I mean? 1 and 2, people were like, I guess, hey, we want to see a Sonic movie, but I think the reason I say they wasn't supposed to be very good is because of all the video game movies that had come out prior. I think it wasn't too far detached from Assassin's Creed, whenever that hunk of trash came out. But, you've got this movie that people are really hyped about because 1 and 2 delivered. Yes, what they did in that first movie, that trailer came out and everyone, oh no, he's got the teeth and it looks terrible. This is not Sonic. This is going to be the worst. And they did that thing that the internet can do. But what did the studio do this time around? They said, and some people, oh, they shouldn't have done that. They shouldn't have listened to the audience. Oh yeah, well, 3 movies says different. The reason they're able to do 3 movies is because 1 and 2 were very successful, and not even just successful, beloved. Anytime I talk about video game movies and I forget to bring up Sonic, oh my goodness, people will not stand for it because of what they were able to do. And it's a good family film, but it's a good representation of the Sega classic video game. And now you have this trailer that is just kicking butt. People are really pumped about this thing. I didn't even know. See, I didn't pay a lot of attention to anything about the third movie. I just knew it was coming out. I was late to the party when it came to these movies. I had heard that they were really good. I watched 1, then I watched 2 with my daughter. They loved both of them. And then the third one I didn't know anything about. And for some reason I said, I don't think James Marsden or Jim Carrey are in this. I was wrong on both accounts. They're both in it. And they both look good in it. And Jim Carrey looks like he's having a lot of fun still. So here's something from Dark Horizon. The trailer is out. Paramount Pictures has unveiled the first trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog 3 ahead of its release this Christmas. Filmmaker Jeff Wadlow has confirmed that the third Sonic has wrapped filming ahead of its planned Christmas 2024 release. Ben Schwartz, Colleen O'Shaughnessy, and Idris Elba will reprise their roles of Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, respectively, alongside returnees Jim Carrey as both Dr. Ivo Robotnik and making his first appearance as Ivo's grandfather, Gerald Robotnik, along with James Marsden, Tika Sumpter, Natasha Rothwell, Shamar Moore, Lee Meshub, and Tom Butler and Isla Brown. Joining them and new to the films are Keanu Reeves as the voice of Shadow, along with Kristen Ritter, Sofia Pernas, Cristo Fernandez, James Wolk, and Joma Tacone. The 2 Sonic films to date have pulled in $870 million, even with the first one slightly hobbled by the pandemic. Neil Moritz, Toby Asher, Toru Nagahara, and Hitoshu Okono produce. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 opens in cinemas December 20th. $1 billion. Can it happen? I think it's possible. If this is good. I mean, look, you get Keanu Reeves in there joining, and people are really, really pumped about the fact that not only that Keanu Reeves is joining, but man, the Shadow character. People love Shadow, and he looks devastating. The character looks fun, and who better than John Wick? But the question, there's when you throw that $1 billion dart that everybody wants to hit the bullseye with, the question is, will Mufasa hurt or help Sonic? Because people are going to be looking for a movie to see during the holiday season. Now, Mufasa is definitely going to do well. The first Lion King, the remake of the animated classic, did pull in $1 billion. Different time, pre-pandemic era, but nonetheless, did very well. Very recognizable character. People who knew Mufasa is. There's going to be some marketing behind it. Does that one hit $1 billion? I don't know. But people do like to go to the movies during the holiday season if there's something to watch. Now, with the third one, well, now they said it also in the beginning there that the pandemic was the reason why, even though the pandemic was going on, the first Sonic movie did very well. What would have done outside of the pandemic if there was no pandemic? Second one played very well, did some good money. This one, to me, seems more hyped than both of them because of the previous two movies that did very well, and people are really on board with it. I think this trailer helps that cause. Do I think it's going to make $1 billion? No, I don't. Do I think it could? Would I be surprised if it did? No, I would not. If you told me Sonic was the big surprise and Sonic wound up making $1 billion, I said I could see that happening. Because Despicable Me 4, which is I think it's 4, right? Whatever the most recent one is. That movie, it was not very good, but it still crossed 800 million or whatever it did. Now, granted, it's Minions and all that, but I feel like the Minions have kind of run their course, but $800 million says otherwise. Sonic is in his prime in the movies. Not in, well, he's talking about, he's an old video game character. Yeah, but in the movies, he's in his prime. So a third movie could wind up being the biggest one. I mean, hell, look at Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadpool and Wolverine, 2 successful movies, and the third one was the most successful out of all of them. People still wanted it. Deadpool was in his prime, and they wanted to see what was happening with Marvel and all that. I understand the MCU and how that all worked out. I get there's different elements to it. I understand that. But this is going to be interesting to see if Sonic can cross $1 billion. What do you guys think? Do you think that it is possible? Do you think that it could happen? Do you think there's no way? Do you think that you would be shocked if it did? You say you wouldn't be shocked. I would be shocked, you dummy, and this is why. Go ahead and put your comments in there and tell me exactly what you think. I'll tell you what I think. I think you'd be silly if you didn't try to save yourself some money when it comes to renting. That's right. I'm going to tell you about Built, and then I'm going to tell you about definitely talking to the right people when you need to with BetterHelp. So I'm going to tell you about both of them, Built and BetterHelp, right now. Here you go. Everybody has been there. You feel like you're just burning cash with rent. It is the worst. But here's the deal. Built Rewards has figured out a way to make rent more rewarding. You got to say goodbye to the money bonfire and hello to a renter's revolution with Built. Built, it's a breaking ground as a neighborhood rewards program that hooks you up with your points on your rent. Every month, pay your rent and watch the Built points roll in. Use points to jet off on a dream vacation. Put your points toward a flight or hotel stay with 500 plus airlines and over 700,000 hotels and properties. You can also use your points to book fitness studio classes, redeem them towards a future rent payment. They're designed to meet your lifestyle. Pay rent hassle-free through the Built Rewards app. Your rent game, it just got a major upgrade. Built points have been consistently ranked the highest value point currency by the Points Guy and Bankrate. Earn points by paying rent right now when you go to joinbuilt.com/bigthing. That's joinbuilt, joinbilt.com/bigthing. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you. You got to joinbuilt.com/bigthing to start earning points with your rent payments today. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What is something that you would love to learn? I was thinking about this. As an adult, do we really make time to learn new things as often as you would want to? Or do you lose that in childhood? Kids are always learning. They're always growing. As a dad, I see it all of the time. But when you get older, you're so busy and thinking about other things that we kind of lose that curiosity. Therapy, it can help you. It helps you reconnect with that sense of wonder because your back to school era can come at any age. When you are talking to someone and you have a conversation and you realize about things that you have lost, it is crucial to be able to talk about that with somebody. So I can tell you from people in my family that have been talking to people from BetterHelp, there are things that have just woken up people to say, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. And even talking to Roxy, who talks about BetterHelp on the show all the time, that's exactly what happened to her. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's online, it's designed to be convenient, it's flexible, and it's suited to your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. You switch therapists anytime, no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. You got to visit betterhelp.com/bigthing today. You'll get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/bigthing. All right, thank you to our friends over at both Built and BetterHelp. As I tell you each and every time, we only sign up with people that we think are going to be good for you, people that we have used, people that we continue to use. So make sure you go into the description, check it out. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify. I know people have been asking me, by the way, hey, what happened? The last couple episodes haven't been on Spotify. There was this weird thing that was happening with Spotify. I was trying to upload and it wouldn't let me. It finally did today. So I put like 3 episodes out there today for a backlog. So this one will probably be up a little later, probably tomorrow. I don't want to put 4 episodes up on Spotify today, but it will be up tomorrow on Spotify. So if you're listening to this on Spotify, it's probably Wednesday. So I've also made some announcements. I said something that in September, we're officially changing the name of this show. It will no longer be The Big Thing. We're going to just change it to pretty simple. Just going to call it The Kristian Harloff Show. Plain, simple, easy. Going to have a new intro. Going to have some new logos. We're going to change up the look of it. Those types of things. Going to add some more quality. We're getting better guests. We're doing some more stuff. So all that. And speaking of guests, if you guys have been watching Capes and Cowls, and we were talking about Booster Gold, the name that Coy keeps throwing around is Billy Magnuson. Now, you know Billy from whether it's No Time to Die or whether it is in Aladdin, Game Night. I mean, hell, man, the list goes on and on and on with this guy. He's so good. He's a really good actor. He was in Many Saints of Newark. He played Paulie Walnuts. He's in many different things. Well, he's got a new show on HBO that's coming out, and it's called The Franchise, which I can't talk about it yet, but I can tell you that I've seen the first 3 episodes, and if there was ever a show that was right for this audience that I talk to all the time, it's this show. It's HBO, and he's in it. He's brilliant in it, and we have about an hour-long conversation. That episode will be out sooner around that when that show drops. I think it's somewhere in September, but I'm just telling you guys more of the things that we're doing here. So the big thing will be going away. It'll be the Kristian Harloff Show, and that'll start in September. So when you see it, so you're like, oh, wait a minute, what happened? The logo changed, all that stuff changed. All right, let's move on to some new news. So full disclosure, a little while ago, probably about a month ago, I was asked to do this full thing for Star Wars Outlaws, see if I wanted to do a watch along or play along or whatever it was, and I just the timing didn't work out for it, and they were very kind and asked me again. I couldn't do it. And it's also, I'll be honest, there was a time when I would have moved mountains to, no matter what it was, I'd make sure I was available to either play a new Star Wars game or watch a Star Wars show or all that stuff. And I'm finding myself not that excited about this stuff lately. And that's also because of what I've talked about with, the things that I'm going to do in that video about the things I think that need to change in order for that to start getting a little bit more enjoyable. But the game is coming out. People are excited about it. And the first reviews are in. And Dark Horizons writes, the Star Wars gaming license has broken free of EA, best demonstrated with Ubisoft's AAA title, Star Wars Outlaws, which is coming this Friday. The verdict is in with 61 reviews counted on Metacritic. The game stands at 77 out of 100, compared to other Star Wars games that's behind Jedi Fallen Order, which was 79, Squadrons at 79, Jedi Survivor at 85, but above the 2 modern Battlefront games, 73 and 68. Out of the 61 reviews, only 1 is outright negative, with another 12 mixed and 48 positive, albeit as a number of soft positives. Essentially, the final score is on par with mid-range Assassin's Creed titles like Syndicate and Mirage. Sampling of review quotes. Star Wars Outlaws is a fun intergalactic heist adventure with great exploration, but it's hindered by simple stealth, repetitive combat, and few too many bugs at launch. That's IGN. Games Hub. In a year where we've all been waiting for a standout game to rise up, I feel like, at least for now, and without saying it out loud, Star Wars Outlaws has beaten the odds. Pocketlint, developer Massive, has convinced me that there is still magic to be found in a galaxy far, far away, but unleashing itself from the restrictive canon and need to reference the core trilogy at every turn. Outlaws has afforded the freedom to tell a story at a more relatable scale. CG Magazine says, despite technical issues, Star Wars Outlaws was an incredibly engrossing adventure. From its unique story perspective and engaging gameplay, it is the scoundrel story fans have always wanted. Last few, gaming trend. Star Wars Outlaws might play things a bit safe, but the solid foundation leads to a fantastic adventure. The gameplay is tremendous, with some of the most engaging stealth mechanics I've enjoyed in a game in a while. and in some great characters, fun side missions, and a gorgeous open world. Star Wars Outlaws is a great trip across the stars. The gamer. There are times when I didn't want to put this game down, which only made its glaring omissions all the more noticeable. It was a lackluster story, a bizarre lack of polish for a production of the scale, and a main character that isn't the step forward she should have been. And then the final one is Joe Act 2. Star Wars Outlaws could have been a wonderful game, but the lack of polish in its gameplay prevents it from being one of the best. The game does, however, have some really good arguments to tip the balance in its favor, starting with its total and successful immersion. Okay, so for the most part, isn't it, look, this is, you hear all this, they're not saying, hey, it's a stinker or it's bad. It looks like the gameplay is okay from what it's saying here, that some people like the story, like the character, and some people saying they couldn't put it down. This is one of those ones that I don't know if I'm going to rush out and get right away. I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to hear, and, from people that I know, that I trust, that are like, hey, this is a really good game. There are people that I trust that are balanced. And I think that that's what you need right now in Star Wars because, as we've mentioned many times over to exhaustion, I know if I go down a rabbit hole, I'm going to run into somebody who the game hasn't even come out and they hate it because there's a female character who's running around the joint and they hate it right away, right? Then you're going to get the other side of it that they love it because it's Star Wars. So they love it so much. It's the best game they ever played. And you're like, I can't take that person seriously either. So I got to look in the middle at somebody who's going, I don't know what the hell this story is. I don't know if I care. Is this something that's forced or is this something that's actually good? Is this a good character? I don't know. Let me play this game and I'll tell you how it is. That's the person that I'm going to listen to because that's the place that I fall in right now. I fall into these places of like, is it a good story? Do I care? Do I feel like I'm getting beaten over the head with a message? Or do I feel like this is actually a really good story and I care about this? That's what I feel like Star Wars needs to be. Is do I care about these characters again? And I hope the answer is yes. I hope that the answer is, I don't know what the hell these reviews are talking about. This game's awesome. Always rooting for that. In the same way that I'm rooting for the shows and the movies. Always rooting for it. But we'll see. As I said on the Monday show, I do feel that there needs to be a major change. And more every time that a Star Wars story comes up, I'm going to push that fact that I think that Star Wars will get better when there is a regime change. I just think there needs to be a regime change right now. I think that there's just there's just too many. They don't have it right, and I think it's time that Bob Iger moves in a new team because this team ain't working. I will say this, and I said this the other day: the video game team, whether it's Jedi Survivor or the stuff that they're doing with Visions and that side of it, that stuff's working. That stuff's working good. The books, even though I haven't read them in a while, but those authors and everything, the people who are running the books and all that, leave them be. Leave them be. It's the film and TV stuff right now. New team. So let's see if the video game people can continue the streak. And I look forward to hearing it. But what about you guys? Do you think that this is going to be a good story? Do you have hope? Do you think it's going to be good? Are you going to get it? Because Star Wars games, when those things were popping, remember all back in the day how great Star Wars games were? I'm, again, hoping that Star Wars games can get back on track because they had a good run so far with, Survivor and all that. So, next story. They're going to make Labomba? What? What are you doing? Mucho Mas Media and Sony Pictures are teaming up to develop a remake of the 1987 Golden Globe-nominated feature Labomba, which was a biopic about rock and roll singer Ritchie Valens. Lou Diamond Phillips broke through portraying Valens in the original film, which depicts the teenage Mexican-American's rise to fame from field laborer to rock star with a string of hit singles over the span of just a few months. The film paid homage to the early days of rock and the talented young man who crossed borders with his music before a plane crash killed him and fellow musicians Buddy Holly and the Big Bopper when Valens was just 17 years old. Luis Valdez, the writer and director of the original film, is on board as an executive producer, while Oscar-nominated writer Jose Rivera from the Motorcycle Diaries and On the Road is attached to pen the script. The new take will reportedly incorporate new biographical details which have come to light in the years since. The film, which Javier Chapa will produce, will also likely cast younger, as Phillips was 24 when he shot the film, playing Valens, who was aged 16 to 17 throughout the story. The original film was added to the National Film Registry of the U.S. Library of Congress back to 2017. So this is why sometimes I like reading the story while I'm doing the show. I'll see a headline and I'll go, let me find out more about that. And I like to do kind of the live reaction on air. Because going into that story, I was like, why are they making Labomba? I was like, why are they remaking it? Why are they just doing another Richie Valens story and, just doing like they've done with many other, there's tons of different Elvis movies that have been done and they're not a remake of one that's already been made. Why are they doing that? Well, then they answered the question. The producer of the original film is coming on board and there's other things that they want to add to it. And they want to cast a younger actor to essentially do this movie, but remake it and introduce it to a new audience. Okay. I do think casting a 16 or 17-year-old person to do this is probably the way to go. The 80s were the king of doing, hey, let's cast a 30-year-old to play a 14-year-old. That's what they did in like Beverly Hills 90210, and they did all these things. I think Steve was like 87 years old when he was in that movie, Ian Zierning, whatever his name was. And then you had, Lou Diamond Phillips, who looked young, babyface. Ralph Macchio, another one, looked older, or you looked younger rather, played younger. And so this is something that I think makes sense. And it just shows you, because not that it wasn't tragic when Lou Diamond Phillips did it at 24 and still it's a tragic story, but there's something about a kid that looks 17 years old also, and knowing what happens to him and seeing that kind of, how 17 years old and how you realize how young he really was when that happened. And, to see that rise of fame with him and Donna and all that. I mean, I'm that movie I know very, very well. I watched it. I remember seeing it as a kid. And it's a powerful movie. And I wonder what they're going to add to it where they can actually kind of remake it, because it is a good movie, right? But it's not a movie that when you say to a lot of people, and I wonder to my younger audience, for my audience that is in the, let's say, 30 and under, have you ever seen La Bamba? I wonder. And I also want to, I would assume that the Latino community has probably seen it. It's absolutely a movie that I think is crucial to watch in general, but I think the Latino community has probably definitely seen it, maybe even 30 and under. I'm very curious to hear what you guys say, but the people who haven't seen it or haven't heard of it, then maybe that's why they want, because he was such an instrumental kind of figure during that time and how big that was. And the fact that not only the Big Bopper and Buddy Holly were also on that plane. Are they going to then do a remake of the Buddy Holly story?
Well, Gary Busey says, you cannot remake that movie unless you put me in it today. I'll play Buddy Holly again.
Gary, you can't do that. You're almost 80 years old and you don't know what planet you live on.
I live on the planet Burn-On. I have a chip inside of my head, and I can speak to water bottles backwards.
Thank you, Gary.
You are welcome. What is your name?
My name is what? My name is
what?
I can't tell you.
What is your name?
Forget it, Gary. All right, moving on. All right, we're getting another Predator movie by Dan Trachtenberg. We know that it was coming eventually. He did Prey. It was very successful. Well, he's got another one, and there's new details. There's a new Predator movie. It is now filming in New Zealand. There are details that have emerged about Predator Badlands, being a casting call leaked for a mystery film codenamed Backpack, which is currently filming in New Zealand. According to fan site AVP Galaxy, the casting call page says that the production hails from 20th Century Fox Studios, or 20th Century Studios rather, has Badlands listed on it, and it is being helmed by Prey director Dan Trachtenberg. The casting call also includes a synopsis and details about some of the characters. It says, a groundbreaking film in which one of the two main storylines delves into the intricate bond of two very different sisters. Their family ties are put to the ultimate test as they pursue divergent paths and missions. The lead actress will play the twin sisters called Thea and Tessa. Thea is smart, witty, and has spent most of her life in a laboratory, and this is why she is on her first big adventure in the world. Tessa has a military intensity when it comes to completing her goals and objectives. Filming is taking place between June and September on the project, with the lead actress having to be able to handle heavy action as well as wearing prosthetics, heavy makeup. Production will take place in Rotorua, Te Kuri, and the South Head Peninsula. Back in June came the news that Emmy-nominated Ella Fanning is in talks to star in the film, which Trachtenberg co-wrote with Patrick Eisen. I don't know how to feel about this, because there's not enough detail, is one. And I don't love that Amber Midthunder isn't in it. At least it seems like they're not doing it in that time period again. It seems like it's more modern. I think it looks like now. Again, I'm torn. I'm torn on it because the one side of it is okay. You went and you did that kind of smaller movie that worked, back to basics, in a forest. You know, that Prey movie felt the most like the original Predator than any other ones did. A lot of these sequels, what they wind up doing is once they find success, they try to go bigger, and they try to go, okay, let's go next step, let's go next level now. Now, if this is just a movie now modern but still scaled back, and it seems like it will be because it's like they're not going after a major doesn't look like a major movie star, which means doesn't mean anything except high priced in my opinion, and there is a chance that Trachtenberg can then say, okay, look, this is what I wanted to do. I always wanted to do another Predator movie, but I wanted to build it up. I showed you what I could do with Prey, and now I'm going to do it in more modern time. And this is what I wanted to do. This is how, in my opinion, I think that they should have done this. Because if they can hit with this, and you had Prey, you had this, you look at what Fede Alvarez did with Romulus, and then you start to say, maybe there's a formula that's working here, guys. But this one needs to hit, unless for some reason Century could do this, and I could see them doing this. Well, hey, Prey was really good, and everyone loved it, so we're going to give you $150 million now to make a Predator movie. Make that for $150, and let's put it in theaters. And that could be a mistake. Now, if you make this smaller, again, now I don't know if it necessarily has to be a Hulu release. They could actually put it in theaters if it's a smaller release and see what kind of money you can make off of it. Why not? Still think Prey could have seen it, done that. But I don't know. There's not enough to this. This is a leak. So this is just basically them saying, hey, look, we're shooting this. This is definitely a Predator movie. They started filming it, and that means we're going to get it next year. Now, I don't know, and I have to go through the schedule for 2025, which is so many movies coming out. I think that somewhere, it makes sense. It makes sense because there's somewhere in that schedule when I go through that summer movie preview for next year, or even next year when I go over the upcoming movies. I've done it many times over. And there's so many untitled Disney movies. There's so many untitled Universal movies. So there's so many untitled Disney ones that you could see that this would land somewhere in the theater. And I think it probably will. I think it will, but I think it's going to be a smaller movie. And I think it'll wind up being like an April or a September or October release. I'd probably closer to September and October if I was going to guess. Because if you start shooting, if it just recently started shooting, now it gives you about a year to get it into the theater. Yeah, I think between September and October we'll see this thing, and we'll hear more about it sooner than later. What do you guys think? You think they should have stuck with the time period that they were in, or no? Predator, because it's kind of all over the map, different time periods. That as long as they keep it small scale, this thing could be solid. What say you? Now, let's talk about Jimmy Bond. Multiple considered to direct the next Bond. What's that mean, you say? So, it has been nearly 5 years since No Time to Die wrapped filming, and 3 years since its pandemic-delayed release, but it still appears if we are no closer to a new James Bond film gracing cinemas. There has been speculation galore as to who might take on the Bond role and who might direct the next film. Both are crucial decisions set to define not just the movie, but the ones to follow. A new report in British tabloids The Telegraph indicates things still haven't progressed much with no script, no title, no director, no setting, no potential source material selected. They do, however, suggest several potential directing contenders have now been summoned to EO1 Productions for what they call a first round of speed dates to find a Helmer who is both a safe and seasoned pair of hands and who wouldn't press to do a distinctive personal style that would impinge on Bond's own. The list so far reportedly says the previously rumored Edward Berger, who did All Quiet on the Western Front, is the frontrunner, with Bart Layton, American Animals, The Imposter, and Jan Dimash, 71, White Boy Rick, dubbed plausible choices. Also reportedly in the mix are David McCod from Animal Kingdom and The Rover, and Kelly Marshall, who did Venom: The Last Dance. The article also goes into how part of the fan base wants straight period adaptations of the Fleming novels, to which one Bond expert came up with a key reason the studio wouldn't go in that direction: product placement. 1950s set reboot would be a clean break, but associated brands like cars, watches, and clothes, which are key to offsetting the film's extraordinary production and marketing budgets, either have to go very retro or won't be involved. Either way, it's likely a director will be secured first before a potential actor is cast in the role. What do we go after first here? Let's go after the director side of it and stay positive. I really like the majority of this list. I like the Edward Berger All Quiet on the Western Front choice. I like Bart Layton from American Animals. Jan Demange, 71, White Boy Rick. Like those choices. David Mickod, Animal Kingdom and The Rover. All of those choices I like. Not crazy about the Kelly Marcel Venom The Last Dance one. You say directed the script and got the tone that Sony wanted, so maybe that's actually a positive to the director, not a negative. Even though I don't love that movie, it still is. That's the one that just came out. That's the one that's coming out. Oh, never mind. The Last Dance is this one. I haven't seen it, but still, from the trailer alone, I was thinking it was Andy Serkis did the second one. Who did the first one? Rupert. I don't remember who did the first one. So anyway, I don't know. So maybe the third one is so good that they loved Kelly Marcel and wanted to and that's the director that they wanted to choose. But I'm going to say I don't benefit of the doubt, sure. Anyway, the list in general, pretty decent. But it is crucial to get a director, to get an actor that you want to really, that's the most important. You got to have your team, because that's what always, remember when Daniel Craig got cast back in the day? It was, who's that guy? Who's that? Uh-oh. Who's that person? How are they going to make that work? And the director was announced, and then the build up. You build around the team that you have first. Like, this is your Bond, this is your director. Start getting hyped. Here you go. That's all fine and dandy, and the way you have to do it. So meeting with these people is the way to go. I hate this report that the reason they don't want to do period pieces is because of product placement. It is the same thing that when anybody describes my show, he talks about budgets all the time. He talks about, what do you care about budgets so much? Because it dictates, this is your answer why. I saw somebody answer that question. Why do you care about budgets so much? Why not just a good story? Because this is what hurts good story. Because they're worried so much about their damn budget to where they're going to make it so much money that they need to pay for it, that they could have a good story in putting it in the 50s and 60s, but they don't, because they want to put cars there that they can put and market and do commercials for. And that hurts story if there's a better story. Now, they might have a better story in modern times. It's very, very possible. But if there's a great story in the 50s, they're not even going to attempt it because they can't put new cars in there. That's why I care about budget, because it hurts story. And that happens all of the time. It happens all the time with it. Well, if we're going to make it that much money, well, then we got to make sure that we have a product placement at this point, or we put this person in there who costs this, and this has to do that. And it's a business overall, and it hurts story. And that's why I think that budgets need to be lower. And people always say, what do you care about budgets so much? Well, you're not the one that's making money out of it. I don't give a shit about me making money about it. I care about the story that's being told. And you can hurt your story by trying too much, to put too much money into it, to try. I mean, I get it. Well, it's a business. You're trying to make money. You can make money by making good quality stuff. If you make the good quality material and you make good stories, and if you made a really great Bond, if you found a 1950s story and you scaled back the budget a little bit, but you're able to make a good 1950s Bond, you find a way around to market and budget and do those types of things if you can get the story done. But no, we can't put new cars in there. That's a stupid choice. If that's the choice. I don't necessarily know if that is the choice. But if that is the choice, it's a stupid choice. And it's one of these things I'll tell you that, and I mentioned I'm going to have Billy Magnuson on the show. And again, I can't get into, I watched the 3 episodes of the franchise, which is an HBO show. They really explore how studios get involved in big budget movies. That's what I can say. And I think that that's why people are going to really be interested in that show. All right, let's do one more. And we'll make it a short show today. You guys know how much I love One Piece. That was a show I just fell in love with and kind of found by accident. I'm really looking forward to season 2. And I really love this story right now, because this goes back to my previous conversation about quality and fighting to keep the quality. So, in adapting the manga and anime One Piece into a live action series, the creators have to deal with the fact that they have enough material for at least 12 to 15 seasons. So, it becomes a question of how you faithfully adapt material and whether judicious cuts should be made to not just scenes, but the whole story arcs. The project hit such a question with the second season, which has chosen to adapt the next 5 story arcs from the manga anime, foregoing the large Arabasta arc for a third season. According to popular virtual YouTuber Naxoner, Netflix was reportedly keen to incorporate the arc into the second season, but received pushback from both manga creator Ishiro Oda and live action series creator co-showrunner Matt Owens. They reportedly said Owens dedicated himself to pacing out season 2 of the adaptation when executives at Netflix wanted to streamline or even cut arcs from season 2 to reach Arabasta faster, namely within the second season. Owens pushed back on the notion, not wanting to skip any important building blocks just to reach the Arabasta arc sooner. In addition, Oda has final say on all aspects on the show and famously had the production team reshoot some big scenes because he was unhappy with the result. The second season is currently in production in South Africa, with this past week seeing some key casting announcements made. However, quite a few key roles are yet to be revealed. One such character is Tony Chopper, the talking reindeer, who has several different forms in the series. A new report suggests that stuntman and actor Gavin Gomes will take on the role of the heavy point form of Chopper. Fans found out he had included his work as Chopper on his acting CV recently. That listing has been removed, and so far Netflix has yet to comment on casting on the key roles left, like Tony Chopper, Crocodile, Nico Robin, and Portgas D. Ace. Okay, none of those names. I don't understand any of them. But I will say I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting. I love this story. And I love the fact that he's got creative control on it, because clearly he knows what he's doing. And this happens. And this goes back to the previous conversation of the executives get into it and they want to say, hey, we need to get there faster. And look, sometimes, and I'm always saying this, the studio executive is not always the bad guy. I know that that's in the same way that, like, politicians are always painted out to be the bad guy. There are good politicians. There are. I hate to tell you, there are good politicians. A lot of them are shit, but there's good politicians. And the same goes for studio executives. There's a lot of shitty studio executives and a lot of selfish ones and scumbags and all that. There's a lot of good ones too. I've met a bunch of them. And they're people who are actually pretty damn creative. So there is that possibility that a very good creative studio executive said, hey, listen, we think we can cut this down, put this in there, and then, we can get there faster, and maybe you don't need that stuff. But I'm going to go the other side of it and say, if this guy believes, no, there's some crucial elements that are going to play into season 2, and then it'll make season 3 even better when we finally get there with this arc. And you trust that guy. And there's a reason why you gave him that kind of creative control in the first place, because he's going to make decisions like this. I love this decision because I want to learn more and more and more about this world. I want to stay 12 to 15 seasons. Count me in. I'm in. If they can stay the way that they are, the question is, how old are these kids going to be by the time that they do these 12 to 15 seasons? If they're going to even do them that long, they'll probably have to recast, right? I mean, I assume that they stay, Monkey D. Luffy stays the same age throughout the whole time, doesn't he? I don't know. Maybe he gets older. You guys tell me. This is what I say about this series, is that what I love about it is that the fan base is so welcoming and wonderful that you can say things like me, no dummy, he gets older. It's the whole point. But they're not going to say dummy, this audience. They're going to say, no, actually what happens is the other fan bases, the Star Wars, DC, and Marvel, Game of Thrones, oof. You say somebody's hair is the wrong color. They're coming for you. But not this fan base. It's my favorite fan base that I've ever interacted with, ever. They are the best. So if you are a One Piece fan and have ever commented on a video, I say thank you, because you put I have more faith in humanity because of the One Piece fan base. I was so ready because of my past experiences with the Star Wars fandom and the DC fandom and the Marvel fandom and the Game of Thrones fandom. I was just ready for people to, here we go. I messed up a few names. Come on, what do you got? And they were wonderful. The exact opposite. Wonderful. Never had an experience like that ever. But I asked you guys, what do you think? Do you think this is the right call, or do you think that, hey, maybe the executive was right, man? I've seen this. I think he could jump right into this arc. I know this show. What do you say? All right, we do have another story. We've been talking about this Gambit, man. So this is from Comic Book Movie, who writes, it looks like Channing Tatum might stay on as Gambit in the MCU, but is that what the fans really want? It's looking more and more like Deadpool and Wolverine star Channing Tatum will return as Gambit, but is it something the majority wants to see? Mark Cassidy writes, Channing Tatum was given the opportunity to take on the role of Gambit in Deadpool and Wolverine after missing out playing the heroic mutant when Disney acquired 20th Century Fox's assets and brought the studio's X-Men franchise to an end. Tatum made his MCU debut as Remy LeBeau in The Void, joining Elektra, Blade, and X-23 as members of the Resistance Wade Wilson and Logan encountered when they were stranded by Mr. Paradox. Earlier today, Ryan Reynolds shared a deleted scene from the movie which strongly hinted that Gambit will make his way to Earth 616 via a Marvel Sparkle Circle at some point. Tatum has spoken out about how much he'd love the chance to reprise the role, but is it really something the majority of the fans want to see? This take on Gambit had the comic-accurate costume powers and accent, and Tatum seemed to be having a blast in the role. But the majority of his scenes were played for laughs, and while some greatly enjoyed his turn as the Raging Cajun, others seem to feel that Tatum simply isn't the best fit for this character after seeing him in live action. Okay, so we've talked about this. Look, this is one of those things where if you have him show up again and he pops into Secret Wars or something along those lines, sure. Why not? If you're going to have him show up again, have him have his own movie or playing him in an X-Men movie, that's a mistake. Have him showing up again is not a bad idea. And remember that everybody who shows up in Deadpool, everybody, even Wolverine, plays more comedically than they would in their regular movies, right? So yes, he's played for a goof, but in another variant of, you could play it that way, another variant of the Channing Tatum Gambit could see him play it more serious, could see you actually give him more to do than just the jokes and the goofiness of it, which it was played for humor in a Deadpool movie. I don't think having Channing Tatum play Gambit in a standalone movie is the smart play. Having him come back to team up with Deadpool or somebody else, or having Jennifer Garner back again, or Wesley Snipes, having the three of them back again in Secret Wars, sure. In a scene or two, nobody's going to give you crap for that. But having him play it in like a longer capacity, that would be a problem. So what do you guys think? Put your comments in there. Tell me, do you think that this is something that should happen, would happen? How should it happen? All right, let me know. And that's going to be it for today, man. This is it. It's a shorter show, I know. But we got it done. I'm so curious to hear all your thoughts. Make sure you put your comments in there. We'll be back tomorrow, and we will be back on Thursday. We'll be back on Friday. We got a lot of things coming up. I got out of the theater reactions next week Beetlejuice is next week. The following week after that is, I think, See No Evil is on Monday, and then right after that is going to be Transformers 1. I'm trying to put these schedules together to get the actual movie reactions coming out. I'm working on it, trying to get that done. So bear with me. A lot of new things coming with the channel in September. As I told you, there's going to be kind of new rebrand of this whole thing. So if you're new to the channel, subscribe to it, put your comments in there, all that and more. Thanks for joining us here on the show today. We'll see you back here tomorrow.